I'm gonna call the meeting to order. We don't really have a quorum and probably won't have a quorum. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna talk through some of there's like 4 issues that we wanna kinda get through today and make suggestions that will be actually voted on in the meeting tomorrow night, okay? So, we've got 3 people, and we'll just start. So Vince, why don't you lead the meeting and kind of just talk through. Bobby's here. Hank's here, I'm sorry. Bobby's not here, Hank's here. I'm sorry. And I'm gonna call Chip.
Really, Hank can probably discuss more of this a whole lot better than I can. But what we've got to be aware is what we're not gonna have to finish this next construction project.
Big roll or a little roll?
You got a big one there?
I got a big one.
Let's look at that.
Yeah,
If you guys all want to come up and
Are you there?
sit up here and discuss, feel free.
Drag that mic out of the way.
okay, hey, tell Chip, I'm trying to get Chip.
Okay, go ahead.
I might dial the wrong number.
How you doing?
We'll anchor it down some of these mics.
Hey, James.
Hey, James.
James?
How's everybody doing?
How are you?
Is that an agenda?
We don't have an agenda. We're just gonna try to knock through some technical issues with the generator. You got him on there?
No, but I can call it.
I was gonna do it too.
I didn't know what number you were.
I was calling his. I talked to him.
490?
I've got you. Hey, I'm gonna put you on speakerphone. We're here, okay? Chip, can you hear us? Okay. All right, so having said that, Hank's gonna lead the discussion, and we're gonna try to do 4 things. We're gonna talk about the location of the fuel farm. We're gonna talk about the parking for the general aviation terminal. We're gonna talk about a road access for the proposed corporate hangars, and we're gonna talk about access to the fuel farm. So, Hank?
Okay, well, everybody knows we got phase 4 coming up this year. In phase 4, we'll complete the construction for everything that is hatched. So, right now, what's out there is this area right here. That's partial build up. This year, we'll construct this, construct that so that you gain access to the runway, and then finish the build up of asphalt on everything that's hatched. So when this job is over with, basically what's hatched is what you'll have. So this road's not here, this road, that's not gonna be there. This parking area, which is just a rough sketch of what, that's just kinda like preliminary of what could service the terminal building, which would be here, and this would be like a big maintenance hangar or operations hangar.
So there's more asphalt going over what's already there, right?
Right,
We're adding
right,
a
yeah.
layer.
Right, the structure that you gotta have to support the aircraft that they eventually wanna get to has to be a minimum of 9 inches.
Okay.
What's out there right now is 2.
Okay.
So that consists of this section right here, basically from right there, Josh, all this, that back here's got
Got
2
it.
inches on it.
This is done.
Yeah, this is 100% complete, with the exception of striping. But we didn't wanna stripe anything till you got everything all the way up and let them come out and put the makeup on it when it was done.
So the hatch marks is to be completed is contracted, right?
Other than this road, yeah.
Yes,
yes,
but
yeah.
it's there already.
Right,
Yeah, okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I went out there and looked at it and I didn't see all the hatch marks.
So Chip and Bill and I met and had some conversations. We also talked with an architect that day and got some recommendations there. Nothing binding there, of course, just exploring possibility. And then Chip and I kind of came away with a recommendation, and we discussed it with Bill. From the 2 of us that are gonna be voting on this, that we would like to move that. Because the first thing you see when you drive in is the fuel farm. And we're suggesting right there. And then along with that, so when this is done, it'd be accessible here. When this future road is done, it's accessible on both sides. Also, we discussed, and we never really got anywhere, Bill, because we didn't know, because we didn't have you there,
Mhm.
is maybe taking that and straightening it back up like we had it at one time.
We can do whatever we need to do. I mean, we can modify this layout. We had, I think we had something, didn't it do something like that, though? I mean.
It did,
Yeah.
yes, it came right here, and then
Yeah.
we still looked around.
Okay, I remember that
And
one.
we just talked about squaring it up a little bit, that makes these somewhat equal.
Mhm.
It does away with a long extended parking from the leasing,
Right.
which would solve some things.
Yeah, I think the purpose or the reason that went away was for that hangar right there. And it may have been, I'll have to go back and look, we still got that
And if
original.
we could do that and still get that hangar.
You there?
That'd be great.
I don't see that being a problem.
I
Because we probably need that hangar, because to put a fuel farm here, if we decide to do that, we would have to run that one.
Mhm.
But then the other thing that became glaringly obvious in that meeting, if you went with this layout like it was, we have no way for these folks that we're trying to lease first to access the hangar that they're gonna build these $1 million hangars. And we have, if we leave it like it is, no way to put any fuel farms in there. And then, of course, a future FBO is gonna go somewhere in here, but we wouldn't have a parking lot for it either, and it could be in conjunction with that, but that's the things that just kinda jumped out.
Yeah.
And shame on me for not paying a little more attention earlier on these hatched lines.
Well, I think it's.
I'm in the construction business.
I don't think you got necessarily a huge problem, other than from a logistics standpoint. In other words, don't get the cart in front of the horse, in other words. And that's kinda where we are based on how fast we wanna move with doing construction of these. I will say this, I have spoken with Kevin at the conference this morning, talked to him about the situation of potentially moving the fuel farm. And then, if you guys remember when we put forth the CIP last year, which is how FAA sets up their funding every year, the board elected to not do anything other than use entitlement money for reimbursement of the property. And there was 5 years, from 2019 to 2022, that they wanted the capital improvement plan to reflect receiving that $150,000 of entitlement to pay back on that loan for the property that they purchased for this site. It's not to say that is set in stone, but I put the bug in Kevin's ear that what's the potential of having this road extended, you know what I mean, to help expedite the construction of those
There's
hangars.
funds for this and this wherever it's located.
Yeah, wherever it's gonna go, yeah. And he,
He give you a check.
no, he didn't.
But he was about to.
His thing is, and the FAA only pays for one access, okay? So he was like, no, I can't do anything about that road. And I said, well, it's not necessarily 2 accesses until I type the 13. So if I'm just extending this road on around here, then that's essentially one access, and then the city pick up the tie-in. You know what I mean, without that being part of the AIP grant. And he said, let me double check. So he's gonna double check, but he seemed optimistic about it. He just wants, that he won't be able to check till probably Wednesday or
And you
Thursday.
could just move it to here, you wouldn't have to go all the way, you could, do.
Well, if
You
you're
may as well
gonna,
get it as close as you
Yeah.
can.
yeah, I mean, you wanna get it, if you're gonna put a fuel farm here, you need to go ahead and build that there.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? And you're gonna have to do something as far as getting, a place for the truck to turn around.
Let me ask a question. Fuel trucks are not legal to go on public highways.
Okay.
So if we put a fuel farm here, you can't drive a fuel truck down there anyway, because that's gonna be a public highway, even though it's inside the fence.
Just depends on whether or not it's maintained by the city or the county.
Well, we'd sure like for them to maintain it after we build it.
Yeah.
And so the same thing here.
You talking about the fuel truck for the aircraft itself, not the distributor truck, or not the distribution truck that fills the tanks.
Right, I'm talking about the one that fills the airplane.
Right. Well, then his deal is just to use that.
Right, so that, the reason I'm saying that, if we could get this money, it'd be great to have all this, but if we could get this money, we could open all of this up, maybe get this too.
Yeah.
And then we could access a fuel farm. from the ramp.
Yeah.
And not have to go out on the public road.
You're not talking about a whole lot to gain access here.
No.
That's minimal.
Right. And we actually will put it pretty close to it.
Mhm. And since it would serve as not a quasi-single, in other words, it's a consolidated fuel farm or a clustered fuel farm that
Right.
services multiple people, then the FAA would probably pick up that strip of pavement there. If
Okay.
it was just to serve one individual, like say there was one guy there, you know what I mean, then they're not gonna participate in that because that would be for single use, but that's where this line comes in here, or, well, this line right here. That's why we couldn't extend this pavement over to here, because this is gonna be revenue producing, because it's lease space. So all they'll pay for is just the taxiway.
Okay.
So the distance from the edge of the taxiway to the front of their hangar, whether they put their hangar
Near the back of.
near the back of the fence, where everything from this line,
Yeah.
that way is gonna be on that
And
tenant.
this is
But that's the
probably-
tenant's decision as to where
Right,
they decide to put their
exactly.
hangar. I mean,
And it's
it-
Well,
probably
in a
10
sense, you know, it would,
Yeah.
according to y'all's bylaws, if y'all want
Sure.
them all, yeah,
But-
but you get what I'm
Bylaws need to
saying,
have a
yeah.
minimum, so you don't have it sitting out here
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah.
But it's 10 to 8, it's 18 inches, I mean, you're gonna need some fill dirt in those areas.
Yeah.
To bring it up to where you need to decision,
Yeah.
so that's
That's all gonna
50,
be-
60,000, that's gonna be on who's gonna build the hangars.
Or either the airport do it for them, but that, in other words, Kevin and them can't participate in that. Now, I will say this, if it was for a T hangar, for a T hangar, they'll participate in the embankment construction for these access taxiways. You know what I'm saying? And then normally he lets us just go ahead and build the pads up to the section below the finished floor elevation.
They just brought up a question that we're gonna need to address. What is the minimum
setback for the.
That line right there is your minimum.
That's the minimum FAA.
That's the OFA,
But
yeah.
what would be?
What line is it?
Yeah, that's your object free area.
Right here.
Yes, that's it,
That's-
yeah.
So that means no aircraft parking or anything
You
in that.
can't, you can't be in it, that's an object-free area,
Okay.
meaning if that taxiway is open, you can't have anything in here unless it is aircraft that are operating.
It can be there, yeah.
Yeah,
So we gotta determine how far we want these as a minimum from here in our minimum standards. So when they want to pull their plane out here and wash it, they're not sitting out here.
Mhm.
exactly, you're right. And with that size aircraft, I mean, you're probably talking
A good way.
of, 80, 90 feet minimum. Well,
Well, there's-
I wanna say,
Does it have to be on here?
that'd be your minimum right there, 65.5 feet, basically from this center line back
That's
to here.
65.5.
So-
From the center line?
Yeah, from the center line to that line is 65.5 feet,
Okay, there's 90.
yeah.
So it's.
I think we put it,
Middle of that,
yeah, I
so
think
that
we
would
put
have
it
to
at like
shift
50 or
half
60 feet.
So that would have to shift about half of the building length right there
Back towards
to make that work.
No, I mean, you wanna move it, if this is your OFA,
I was just saying to have 90 feet.
oh, yeah, you're right.
All right, so Vince, where's the new proposed fuel farm gonna go?
Chip and I thought, right there would be a good spot. Is he on the phone?
He is on the phone.
Hey, Chip.
Yep.
How you doing?
Chip can't see that.
FaceTime.
Chip, do you want to go down there on the far east end?
Well, I mean, that looks like a logical spot. It's not an eyesore, and, you really want it out of the way. I mean, I don't know what, where probably the opinion of the fire chief is, but, the thing is, like, of course, you got three of them in one area, so they're all contained in one area, but in environmental still, probably minimize your chances of having multiple, spills. I don't know, but, they have theirs all
Well, and it may
It
be,
seems like you like the place, because there's other people building hangars, and heading down towards that east end, and for the extension area south of there, you know, I mean, it's, you know, it's like that, you know, Continental, their fuel farms across the street on the other side of the SPO. You know, I mean, it would make sense to kind of locate it there, kind of away, and, you know, if we want to build an attractive building, aesthetically appealing, we don't want to, you know, have a bunch of fuel hoses and nozzles and everything hanging out there either, so, and tanks, which I think that's just, I mean, depends on how nice you want it to look.
So what we're forcing the person, we're forcing the fuel any jets that we have by having a fuel truck. Is that what, that's really the outcome of, that we're gonna end, the outcome that we're gonna end up with, is that right?
I would think if it was right there, we'd force them to have their own truck anyway.
Okay.
Because if we put a self-serve,
We're not gonna do these, we're not gonna.
all right, but if, how else is he gonna fuel his truck, his jet, unless he pulls it up to a self-serve fuel? You can't pull it up to the tank.
If you had, if we had it the way that we initially drawn a mixed base operation would still not have a jet full up there facility, because you can have 6 different customers at one time. It's a whole lot easier to service 6 different airplanes from a fuel truck
Okay.
than to pull them back and forth, parking and
All right.
everything else. There's a lot more logistics, you just have a lot more flexibility with the fuel truck.
We have 3 people that are seriously interested in building hangars on the east side. 2 of those, I think, are okay with, you know, do not want their own fuel farm. 1 of those does. What is the board's pleasure on that? Are we gonna put that, how are we gonna address that?
Unless that's where we say, you build a 12,000 by 12,000 foot square hangar, and, you know, and you have to build a minimum. I mean, I think we could, if we wanted to, we discuss having minimum size hangar, make it a large enough hangar size wise, that they're gonna expend the money, and have a minimum tank capacity of 10,000.
That's what I sent you, those parameters.
What does Allen bring at, 10,000?
10,000, and then so much fuel per year, 60,000 gallons or deferred payment to us.
And I think, yeah, that's kind of what we did pick up. I think up in Atlanta, what they did when they did allow the campus up there at, northeast of Atlanta, they said you can have one, you got a minimum size tanker, you gotta have a minimum size tank, you gotta pump 50,000 gallons of fuel a year, if you don't, you have to pay us a penalty for every gallon less than that you purchase. So, I'm all for saying if someone sincerely wants their own fuel bad enough, and we're gonna get the rest of it, and that's fine, we can make an exception to a fuel farm. But, you know, it's gonna have to be an investment where we know it's someone that really wants to do it, and not someone that's gonna, yeah, I'm gonna do 50,000 and do 25,000.
And we want a full environmental response plan too. And we want a full environmental response plan on the front end.
Yeah, that, to show you how convoluted that can get, there's 2 fuel farms right next door to each other, Jack Edwards. I own one of them. A phase 1 environmental study was done when we bought the place. The fuel farm on the other side was leaking, but the ground by mine was lower. So the fuel was going around there, but it was traced all the way back to where the other one was leaking. So you gotta get all that in place. Of course, the easy way to do that is you do a self-contained, you know.
Well, what we did,
treatment in there.
just to make sure everybody's on the same page, when Allen and Ray did their field farms, we did a phase 2, which is basically dug monitoring wells and basically looked at the dirt under that 2-acre site to make sure that we had a clean bill of health, so that 30 years from now, that'll be somebody else, there'll be no pointing of fingers whose problem that was. So
But it'll be one of the 2.
it'll be one of the
Right.
two. I don't know if you're, that's a good, I hadn't thought about that.
One of the 2 is gonna point the finger.
Yeah, oh gosh, I didn't think about that.
But you can get self-containment things that hold so much fuel that it becomes obvious to you, you have a leak.
Yeah.
Unless it's an explosive leak that just blows a hole out, which doesn't happen in these double wall tanks.
All right.
And then you see yourself, you're catching it, you address the problem. And that can be part of our understanding.
These things do grow. You know, I kind of agree. We got a $1 billion environmental, insurance policy out require everyone has a fuel farm. I think
that in our list,
We
Josh.
just do that.
Are you making a note of it?
Concerning the fuel farm, pull up a picture.
That's what Gulf Shores doing, and that's the minimum nobody wants, you gotta have $2 million.
We have $1 million now, so 2 million would be fine.
Start talking about fuel spill, everyone goes nuts.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, this is one that I just did in Atmore. That's a fuel tank. All right, that's their apron right there. This is a big concrete pad, that's a 10,000 gallon tank. And I got a discharge right here with a 6-inch valve on it.
Inside the ring.
Yeah, so this is dual containment tank, but EPA requirements require that
Those spill.
you gotta have, well, spill prevention is one thing, I mean, you can have on your spill prevention plan, the 50-gallon drum of the booms and all that stuff, but the other thing is that EPA requires, based on everything that we've done here in the last 2 fuel farms I've done, it was required that we not only had to have dual containment for the actual fuel tank itself, so that comes from your dual containment, one tank inside another, but you also had to be able to hold the capacity of the delivery vehicle loading that tank,
Right.
plus 10%.
Wow.
So, exactly, so it's not hard to do, yeah, it's not hard to do, you just build a concrete pad here and everything slopes down, you stick a control valve on it, and then the first step in the storm, or in the, spill prevention plan for a delivery truck, he has to come there when he gets ready to offload his fuel, as soon as his foot touches that pavement, he goes over and he closes that valve that normally would be letting stormwater out of that pit. He closes that valve, he hooks up, he pumps, he offloads into your tank or into the client's tank. He unhooks, puts everything up, makes sure you don't have a spill. If you don't have a spill, he goes back over there and opens the valve in case it rains. But that's all in the stormwater, or in his spill prevention plan.
That
But
same tank, is it folded?
not the exact same, but close
Let's
to
put
the
in
same.
our,
Yeah.
the hanger liability thing,
No,
designed
the one
and
at
approved by
Atmore was a lot
the airport
sturdier.
engineer.
But that tank,
Yeah.
or that pad it's enough to hold a Jet A and a avgas self-serve.
8,000 gallon load, you get it.
Right.
8,800 gallons.
Yeah, and then we got a place for we got enough width on that particular pad for a avgas and a Jet A, and then a delivery truck next to it, so that he's in the pit when he offloads. And he never gets on the pavement other than to drive in, therefore he ain't gotta worry about him spilling fuel on the pavement or anything else.
You have it covered,
No,
keep rainwater, you don't get problem.
That's why we put a valve at the backside and everything kind of slopes to the middle and slopes down, so we catch everything, we make sure that that's deep enough.
You gotta run it off anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, what about the general aviation terminal? What's our thinking there?
Now, let me say one more thing here. We were talking about that just as aesthetics.
Yeah.
That's the only direction that came from, was pure aesthetic.
Okay.
You asked a question a minute ago, what about somebody else on the fuel farm? We can't do place any unreasonable burdens on anyone
Right,
else, so
right.
it needs to, so.
But
The
some,
question is, how does that relate to what we just did with the 2 guys on the other side of the ramp? Can it be more stringent than that?
yeah, really.
I think the horses have the
That thing is running around.
Yeah, I mean, that's, normally you're gonna want to
But-
have things apply evenly over all the participants at the airport.
But we can require those things that Chip talked, that laundry list of things, Chip's side, a certain size tank, those kind of things, I think.
Tied in based on the size hanger they've got, because they're both,
Would that be satisfactory, based on
Yes.
their hangar sizes
Ray has
and the
a
size of their
small
fuel
one.
tanks?
Ray has a smaller one, we'd use that one.
Mhm.
Is the guy-
As the sort of the minimum allowable, both hangar size and fuel tank, do we call it a tank or a fuel
I
farm?
think he's somewhere over 8,000 square feet. Alan is just under 10,000 by
Mhm.
30 feet or something.
But I've been told that our proposed tenant wants to be 12,000 square feet. So they clearly.
So, I mean, my thought is if you use Ray's hangar size as the baseline, and so that's the absolute minimum, then you're okay, because you've got that minimum baseline.
Personally, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
I know we haven't change what we allow.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the other question would be, well, could we say these two are grandfathered, but now we're gonna require larger hangars on the east side for the new construction? Maybe, but it becomes a stickier question.
Who are raised side is minimum, I mean, that's over 8,000 feet,
I think that's plenty.
I mean, most folks are gonna try and go right under 10,000 anyway. if they're
Because of the
going
fire code.
Stay away from the sprinkler.
Okay,
If
The
you got
oth-
sprinkler at over 10,000, there's
Mhm.
$350,000 is good.
Okay.
And fuel farms, I mean, we've got some, those are expensive. I don't think anybody knew exactly how much they would cost when they started down that path.
Mhm.
I mean, I've heard they're almost $210,000 before the, you know, that's a lot of money for somebody who's, you know, that's a lot of money. to-
I know someone who just quoted one, or got a quote on one at $650,000 with all the standards, and that was not just jet, that was jet and Av.
Mhm.
You know, 12,000 gallons.
And there again, I mean, the purpose of that, for lack of a better term, is convenience, right? I mean, you just wanna be able to
Well,
put
they
your
make-
aircraft
they make-
up to your own fuel tank versus having a truck.
They make a little
deliver
money
to
on
you.
it. I mean, they can buy fuel at wholesale prices.
Okay.
That's the other part of this conversation, I'm a committee of the one. It would be unfair to whoever that is, to allow whoever that is to just pull their jet up there and fuel it up and not have a truck, but hey, you gotta have a truck.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
and you're paying costs,
Mhm.
and you're charging folks a higher price.
Right.
And you gotta have a truck and run the business
Mhm.
and, you know, on and on and on. And then you also gotta get in, that we gotta put in our minimum standards of how are we gonna track who's buying fuel down here. This'd be pretty easy, that'd be a business.
Mhm.
But, you know, Pam decided to put her fuel tank in out here and she's ordering 8,000 gallons a month, but she's only telling us 4.
Mhm.
So we're shorting ourselves. You wouldn't do that with Pam.
There may be a way you can handle that just through one of those, kind of like it's a self-serve kind of deal, just a QT pod.
Continuous meter on top.
Well, not the meter on top, but you have like, the self-service systems, like where a pilot just lands, pulls his plane up there, nobody's there, FBO's not there.
Mhm.
He can actually put his card in, just like he was buying fuel for his car, like at a gas station. So there may be some opportunity to use that equipment in a way to monitor how much is outflowing.
Yeah.
Cause they have a fuel management system that comes with that.
Yeah.
You may not be charging them
Mhm.
other than just having a way to record keep.
Right.
In other words, for fuel flowage.
Okay, because I thought with the fuel farm being clustered the way it is, I thought what we were offering to folks was opportunity to have their own tank
Mhm.
within this clustered
We are.
fuel farm,
But
so.
what I'm saying is that pod
Uh-huh.
that they've got, you can hook up multiple tanks to that pod.
Oh.
Like tank 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Mhm.
So if somebody goes up there and puts the card in, and it may be that you put a card out there because they have an override card. The FBO normally has an override card because he's already paid for the fuel.
Mhm.
So if he goes and fills up, say, a customer that lands, he goes over there with his override card, he puts it in the system,
Mhm.
or pushes it in the card reader, and it fires up the pump, and he goes and he fills up that client's plane.
Okay,
So the client is getting charged by the FBO, whatever the FBO.
as opposed to.
As opposed to him getting his credit card charge.
Right,
So
right.
there's a way for that thing to basically activate, and it essentially just keeps up with the amount of fuel that's going out the nozzle
Mhm.
every time it gets turned on. And then that's how you would record keep what your fuel
And that
flowage
will-
was.
that will
And if
work.
each of the, let's say you had, tenant A, B, C, D, and E.
Right.
Each one of them had a card that was A, B, C, D, and E, and then you'd know how much tenant A purchased in fuel, or used in fuel.
Mhm.
Even though it's coming out of his tank, he's just hooked up to that reader, is what I'm saying. But the reader would have to probably be something that the airport supplied, and they just
Sure.
hook to it.
And what is that tied into? What is that reader tied into? I mean, what is it?
Normally, it's tied into an internet database, like an Ethernet connection.
Okay.
And it would go out and do like a processing,
Uh-huh.
just like you bought shoes at JCPenney.
Yeah.
With your credit card, it would go out there, and then normally that would go into the airport's,
Checking account.
yeah, checking account or whatever, when somebody purchased
see.
it. What I'm saying is that this card is an override card, it's not charging them,
Mhm.
but.
It's monitoring the
It's
amount.
monitoring the amount of fuel that comes out of that particular tank.
Hey, Jack Edwards, when you buy the fuel, you have to the 20th of next month to pay
Mhm.
them their fee on what you put in your tank. not how much you've taken
Alright.
out.
So
That's-
it's an account, basically. You
Yeah,
got a
that's
fuel
for-
account, and that's what you owe at
And
the
right
end
now,
of
it's
each
on an
month.
honor system.
That's how we do ours.
And that's the other way to keep up with it is the delivery of fuel.
Continental just pays us when they deliver fuel. When they fill up those tanks, Continental.
They're
rate-
charging a premium.
they-
Or, I say a
No,
premium.
they just
They're-
pay, we just get 7 cents a gallon when they fill up the tanks, regardless of whether they use it or not. You know, see what I'm saying? When they,
That's for the FBO, though. I mean, that's.
well, that's, and for Ray and Allen too.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
That's
Everybody
that's
has
the
their
other
own
way to
fuel
monitor it.
form. Once you receive it, you owe us $7.
Okay.
They accept it, whether they take 6 months to use it or 6 years to use it.
Vince, what did you say, what was that quote on the fuel farm?
$650,000
$650?
That was for
for a
two.
dual fuel farm, jet and half gas, you know, all the bells and whistles and everything.
That would give me pause if one of our proposed builders could actually, build a $1.5 million hangar and a $600,000. I mean, that,
Well, they're not gonna want fuel and half gas.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Cut that in
Yeah,
half
yeah.
probably, or somewhere in that range.
that would give me pause. I mean, we don't want to take any construction risk. We want them to document that they can build the hangar and the fuel farm and not let us hold either bag.
Now, would the airport wanna construct the containment system, the containment area where the fuel farms go?
Just about gonna have to. or
That's what I would think, so and then you'd lease that space, right?
Right, so then we could get to where we could limit, here's the number in the containment area. And we gotta pick a reasonable number. We have 3 on the other side, 3 on this side, or whatever. Just thoughts.
Those numbers are pretty close to what I've been seeing on the last ones. I think that might have more with the containment area was about 350. That was the 10,000 gallon tank with a credit card reader. Everything hooked up to it in operation, plus that big pad. So I think the quote they had on it.
Containment pad had a lot.
Yeah, it had, I bet you that was 50, 60, 70,000, something like that. So I think they had provided us with the quote from the manufacturer on the tank, and I want to say it was about 230 something.
Did the FAA pay for the tank?
Yes,
So let's
but
just,
it's considered revenue producing, so the minute they used AIP funds to do that, they knocked themselves out of discretionary opportunities for 2 subsequent years.
if we were to put it right here today, that configuration, and get the containment area right, then if we built the containment area, we've now determined how many individual fuel tenants could go there. The FBO needs 2 tanks.
Mhm.
Everybody else, I don't know of anybody out there that wants to put in a gas tank
Mhm.
or a half gas using plane. I'd see them all as jet fuel. It'd be hard to justify flying a single or twin engine piston aircraft enough to have your own fuel farm.
Tell me again how the size of the containment area limits the number of users.
Because you're basically building a concrete
Yeah,
ramp with a lip out here
that's gonna hold,
your open.
potentially hold fuel,
Right.
okay.
And so once we determine the size of that, that
Mhm.
can tell you how many
Okay.
future fuel tanks you have.
Okay.
Well, the size of it would only have to be able to hold 8,800 gallons, as long as you made the minimum standard of double wall tank.
Right, but if we built the actual thing itself and it's the size of my phone.
Yeah,
how many
that's all you could fit
how many
in there.
fuel tanks
Right.
we can get in there and all we would have.
Yeah, plus one delivery truck.
And I would think we'd need to use at least 3, since we have 3 on the other side, to keep apples to apples.
Three on the other
We
side.
have 3 on the west side, we have Continental
Okay.
on the other
All
side,
right.
so we would have to, in my opinion, go at least 3 over here
Mhm.
to say we didn't discriminate.
Mhm.
Okay.
And when I say something today, it's just my opinion, not anybody else's. I'm not even gonna speak for Chip, he's off his medicine now. Right, Chip? Chip had hip surgery a week ago Monday, if y'all didn't know that.
I didn't know.
I was talking good about you.
All right, now what about the general aviation terminal? And the parking lot?
Let me ask y'all what just general consensus, when this is built out completely, including the terminal, whether Continental moves over there or some other FBO, second FBO locates here, Do you envision this is going to be the primary gateway to the Fairhope Airport?
I would think so.
I would think so.
I would think
I would think so.
It'd be the newest, latest, and greatest, I would
Yeah.
assume so.
Yeah.
So we'd need to be doing things along 32, so, you know, they drove people in there.
Yeah.
Have a new sign,
Yeah.
some light. I think I think in the proposal, hey, give there some lighting for that road.
There it is, yeah.
So, yeah, I
That,
mean,
that
that'd
road will be lit, I think there's 5 or 6 poles going in, and roadway lighting, yep.
This is the construction entrance that was right here.
Yeah, it's actually right here, that's where it is. And now that's gonna become a utility corridor for water, sewer, electric, gas, and communication. That's 60-foot easements, that actually gets on this side of the road.
And we included that in the grant, so that's a good thing too.
And
All
so-
that FAA's picking up.
Some of that stuff we were talking about, could that be done within our current contract with some add minus deducts? Because they gotta go just like that.
We would have to, that has not even been designed.
So.
That has to go, yeah, that would have to, yeah. You can't add.
Utilities and part of it.
No, well, the utilities and all have been designed to go into this easement.
They've been laid out there.
Yeah,
just
they're
moving
there.
them over is not an issue down the road.
Well, it depends on how fast you wanna move them.
As fast as we get the money.
Well, the thing is, you ain't gonna get the money unless you get it from the city or somebody, you ain't gonna get it from the feds until at least this time next year.
Right.
But we can get the money, I mean, but it's possible to get the money.
It's possible to get the money, but you won't get it until next year. It'll have to go through a pre-app that's turned in November, then it'll go through the grant application stage, which will be.
But it's not that much money, it's only about 150, 100.
Yeah, something like that, I mean, I could run a number on it, but it's not that much.
Hank, Pam's asking if we move the fuel farm, we've got this area right here, could the FBO be moved from here to here?
Yes,
Is there a height limitation?
yes. We'd have to check it, just make sure that it's under that glass
Because if this is
slope.
gonna be
we're
our
out of the
main
glass, yeah.
entrance,
Mhm.
this is gonna be our main entrance, you know, you'd wanna come
Not a
up,
bad idea.
come up to the FBO there
Sounds
and
pretty good.
have it look good.
The only thing you gotta be careful about is we're putting a set of field lines right there for your septic system.
Where are you talking
From
about?
what?
Hank?
What are they,
Well, this is where they had originally thought to be the fuel farm,
Uh-huh.
but if we move the fuel farm down to here, and this is going to be our main entrance coming in, it would seem to me it'd be better to have the FBO
Yeah.
up here.
Yeah,
and
from
a
the
rock
First thing you
at it.
see. Mhm.
And the parking, you'd have more parking.
Yeah, wouldn't you think the FBO would be the first people you'd want guests to come
Yes.
see
would.
versus an 80, 100-foot hangar or something?
Yes,
You know, you go to older airports, you'll
And
see.
you have
it.
enough room to put the good parking there.
good parking there as well, so I think,
The fill lines, would that be, that?
They should be out of the way as long as we just can't get into them. Which, I mean, they were out of this area.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're up in here.
That's basically 278 square, right?
Yeah.
Pretty
Close,
big,
yeah.
pretty big, huh?
Oh, yeah, it's big. You can turn a plane around in there, no problem.
278 times, yeah.
How much? 77,000?
It's 1.25 acres, almost 2 acres, isn't
So-
it?
Yeah, it's about 10,000 feet short of it. So what you could do then, you could have enough room here for an FBO, and the FBO hangar next to it. That could become the entrance there, and the parking lot in that area,
Mhm.
if you took that out. That's a good idea, Pam.
thank you.
And then, and you still got room to even put a maintenance hangar or whatever there.
And you
Whatever
still,
you wanna do.
and you still have this area, we
Yeah.
haven't given up that really prime area for.
That's good,
future
that's
hangars.
good real estate.
Because then you could take that out and these hangars would get bigger.
Yeah,
Is this anything Kevin have to approve?
Not really.
Because we really, we're.
As long as, they'll have to approve the plan being modified again, just from our airspace study, but it's not.
But as far as-
What you'd be doing shouldn't impact.
As far as letting the contract, all we have to do is remove the $87,000, is that right?
Do what now?
As far as getting the contract moving, all we have to do is move this, you know, are we gonna still keep that? We're gonna still keep it?
My guess would be, especially if you're gonna put a FBO here, that's gonna be fueling planes,
Mhm. Just keep it there.
I would keep that fuel resistant asphalt right here. right there, that's where we originally had it.
So we wouldn't have to modify the contract.
Right.
So we can just go with what we've got.
And I mean, even if you don't put an FBO there immediately, you know what I mean, you're gonna have small planes parking, you're gonna have small planes parking there anyway. And small planes are the one that's normally dripping fuel and dripping oil and all that, you know what I'm saying?
Plus, you know, having the FBO here, coming in the entrance, you know, that's not a whole lot of parking right there.
No, it
You think
isn't.
about people that leave cars, like in Jack Edwards, you know, people leave cars that come in.
Make a living written space.
You could make a living written space, you could really put a, you know, I mean, a bunch of overnight
Rental
parking
parking
there.
lot or
Yeah,
something
rental
like
lot,
that.
charge these guys, you know.
Have
1,500
somebody
bucks.
shuttle them over there to the terminal building? or
But you're
whatever.
not, but the only issue you would have would be the elevations,
Height, yeah.
so maybe, I mean,
That's a
they're not
quick
flight
check,
patterns.
that's, it's not a,
And we gotta stay on that line. But there is still gonna be a limitation next door to it, but.
yeah, I just need to check and make sure that you come off, I wanna say it's 250 foot, and then it goes up at a 7-to-1, so I just need to make sure that we can put a building here, that if that building was 20 foot high, that it doesn't penetrate that slope that comes up this way. You with me?
And we figure out where that is, that building can sit over here.
Yeah, right, and then you can put parking on the outside of it.
Heck, you could probably then, you know, the restaurant, sit and watch
The
planes
restaurant?
coming.
Yeah. Yeah, you think about all the people that are parking in the grass
Yeah.
now over at Continental. You know, there may be a building, somebody may put a little, I don't know, at some point, you just gotta consider future parking being an issue, especially if people start, you know,
I might have a
operating.
lot of parking space out there where we can't build a building up so that there's gonna be tons of room for that.
I know Foley has a problem with a lot of cars.
With everybody out in the grass.
Yeah, they normally pull them in, and they added a little parking lot on the other side of their access road coming into the terminal, you know, that goes in the gate. But I mean, I don't think they charge rental or nothing, Chip probably knows. But they have a lot of people that come in there and their parking's real minimal.
But the FAA won't pay for the parking lot.
No.
So that'll just have to be
But
part of
they,
it.
they go short, they have a long-term and short-term park.
Yeah.
If you're someone that flies down every weekend, leaves your car down there, they charge you upward of $50 to $150 a month to park your car there, and they police it. So if you park in front of the FBO, your car's there for weeks, they tow it, and then they've got a separate lot, key lot, you get a car, but you have to pay to park your car there for long-term parking. You know, one thing we have to talk about would be, I mean, we talked about the hangars are kind of further down the road, but we build this FBO and we start a couple of corporate hangars, we got a fuel farm over there, and we've got plenty of tie down. There's no reason why we couldn't, right now, someone couldn't start building some T hangars on that row, on that ramp right across from the T hangars on each side of that ramp. You could probably build 25, 30 T hangars right now today if you wanted to.
Where's that? Show me, Vince.
Where are you talking about, Chip?
If you look out at the east side of the T hangars, up on the edge of that ramp where they tie planes down now.
Yeah, aircraft tie down, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I
Okay.
mean, when you pull out and you take a right, like you go down to the state hangar or around to the T hangar, you go past Allen Boat's hangar, you take a right, you go to access the T hangars. Right there on that eastern edge of the ramp is where they tie down all their trains.
He's talking about on the
He's
west.
talking about on the west side.
He's talking on the west side.
And adequate tie down facilities, and most of the people that tie down are just transits. It's a general
He's
rule.
saying you could do it down on the west side, you could do it here on the east side.
You could probably
Could we do that? Wouldn't that be-
hangars before we finish our terminal building if you wanted to. I mean, that's just a place where we would have space available if we had adequate tie downs on the east side that have people have T hangars, because that's what the demand for is T hangars.
Definitely.
See, the only thing with that is,
That's all.
yeah, you got a lot to come up.
That's your job.
Do what?
I'll get it up there.
Hank's gonna get the money to get that other 7 inches of asphalt up there, so we'll go ahead and start that.
No, but
That's
you-
a
no, he's
very
talking
good
about-
idea, though.
Isn't he talking about on the west side though?
No, he's talking about over here.
At the end?
Yeah, right here.
He was talking about that as an example, but he's talking about like right here.
Okay, that's, yeah.
Cause we're never gonna have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10,
We never had
26.
20, yeah.
7, 8, 9, 30, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. About 40 small planes out here at one time, and all of these full of jets in our lifetime.
See, I think what we set up
Maybe on
on,
a one-day event or something.
I think what we set up on this year's deal was to come through here with cables like that, to give you tie downs for small planes temporarily. You know, the cables, 2 runs of cables.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, could we change that?
We can change all
Put
that.
the inserts
I
in
think we
the
talked about cables too cheap.
But you don't wanna put the
Get rid
inserts.
of versus terminal, permanent mounts. If I was, just have my plane down outside, I'd rather have a permanent one, but if we just wanted something temporary,
Yeah.
the ramp built, the cables would be something that could be temporary that we could get rid of real easily if we
That's
wanted to
what-
change it later on.
That's exactly what this is, cause the event, we just wanted to get some small, right, so you could come in and you wouldn't have to worry about having small planes not a place to park over there, because originally, if this was gonna be the fuel farm, this was gonna have to be where you could turn a plane around. And the only place we really had was this location over here. But then, once you come and build out this other section that's not hatched, then you would remove those and put actual, these type tie downs, the ones in the ground.
Makes sense.
And it may even be worth if we can, you know, if you could put a set of cables over here till you figure out the FBO and all that stuff, and you can have some more small plane storage as part of this job if we want the money.
Probably the only thing we need to do is, and we're talking pennies now, is go out there and get enough anchors in there that you have to work to get under that cable and put the sliding ropes on.
Mhm.
We just don't have the cables.
Right.
It's tearing up the boots on every plane.
Right, exactly.
So they won't come back.
Yeah.
Hey, don't we have a permit though for that, for the sewage? Would we have to modify that permit? Would that slow us down? I mean,
No, you ain't doing anything.
so you think,
modified.
you think we'll avoid that area then?
Yeah, if you change the location of that right there, we gotta do a whole new permit.
I understand that.
Yeah, but I don't see us getting into that. I mean, I think the field lines are way outside of that. Yeah, they're over here in this area.
Okay.
They're not in this area. That's why we moved them way back here to make sure. I mean, I can promise you, if you don't go
Okay.
past that, you're not in them.
Okay, that's my concern.
Hank, you said we gotta come, how far in before we start you said 7 foot?
I think it's 200 foot from center line, and then you
Right
run
here.
at a 7-to-1 from there.
7 foot?
7 foot horizontal, 1 foot up.
Okay.
And I can check that real quick. I just need to know what the measurements are over there. I can't remember if it was 400 or 500. I wanna say it may have been 500 foot. I just can't remember.
So if it's, gives you to 28
Yeah.
feet when you get there, that would not be a problem.
Yeah. I can't see it. If that fuel
If those
tank,
numbers are correct, we could have a 28-foot high building on that line right there, sitting on there.
you wouldn't be able to get into
So
this.
you don't get into it.
You don't want it, and
You'd
right
be
now,
35 feet back.
yeah, right now, your existing RPZ is this line.
Mhm.
This is your ultimate, the one you wanna get to, a 30-40-1, which then comes out. But right now, you don't have any problem putting anything all the way into there as long as you don't break that 7-to-1 coming off the slide of the Part 77 surface. But eventually, if you try to go to a 30-40-1, they're not gonna let you do it because now you got a building there and you'd have to take it down. So we need to stay out of this.
Stay
Don't
out.
get in this, is what I'm
They
saying.
need to be parking here regardless. And then
Yeah, that way if you needed to eliminate it, you could.
horizontal at this side and then.
Right.
Yeah, that's the way. We're talking about that existing fuel farm area, Chip, we could get about a 35-foot building height-wise in there without getting into the approach slope.
You talk about on the north side coming off of Highway 32?
Yes. Yeah. So, which is a lot taller than anything needs to be, so.
I don't think so. I think, look at how tall the Continental Maintenance hangar is off the far off the center line. It is landing on 19 on the right side.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, what we have to do is measure that, and we know that that's probably, I don't know what that FAA criteria is for clearance, but obviously we don't wanna, since we don't have outlets, that's one thing we don't wanna do is do anything that
He is only getting half of it.
God, you're on a roll, Joe.
You gotta go, Chip. We agree with you. Some of the stuff you did here was some of that, so. But we've got plenty of room to put a large hangar there, to tie into an FBO.
And a
that would
nice
not
sized parking
interfere
lot.
with the approach slope and have tons of parking lot. That's almost a football field by football field square.
Yeah,
Pretty big.
the terminal could be smaller, and if the hangar's high enough, we just have to, I mean, it could be on that parallel taxiway, it would just have to be offset enough where it wouldn't encroach on the approach, but I kinda think we could just do a thumb and measure where we are off the Continental hangar, and that itself, if we're, no closer to the runway than that is, then I think that's obviously, that's just a quick gallon to go off of, so that it's safe to build something out of that two-story building.
I'll just get you a number, don't trust
You,
it.
I think you give us a number.
All right, Hank's gonna give us a number and give us a little drawing, and tell us where that can be and what height. And then we'll know for sure.
All right, guys, anything else?
We never really talked about terminal. What?
We're gonna build one. 4,500 square feet, yes.
Are we gonna build it?
Well, I can't, I mean, that's not, that wasn't on our agenda tonight, but we can certainly knock it around if y'all want to. I mean, first I'm gonna call, are we gonna build it? I mean, the vision I had was if it's, let's say it's $800,000. I've got a commitment from Dr. Egerton for $250,000. And I've got $150,000, we'll have $150,000 in the bank that we've saved, so that's $400,000. I was gonna then look within the community, and the community would include asking the mayor of Fairhope and the mayor of Daphne for additional funds to do something, maybe in the $100,000 range, and then ask for some corporate sponsorships other than that. That's kind of my plan. Now, I hadn't fleshed that out, because I don't have a number of what it's gonna cost, right? And I don't know what the parking lot's gonna cost and all that, but that's kind of what I'm thinking. I really would like somebody to just say, yeah, we wanna be the FBO and we'll build it for you. That would be an easier way to do. But I don't think there's enough gas being sold out there now to support a second FBO.
But would you think that we would need to figure that out and have someone pre-sign the lease that they're gonna run the FBO before we spend the $1 million and don't know if we're gonna get anything back?
Well, I'm gonna get something back. I'm
talking about gas sales and stuff like that in
Well,
return. We don't want an empty building.
Yeah, I know, just a nice FBO without any,
But nobody running it.
Well, the idea is to get 3 or 4 more jets out there.
FBO buildings, I've seen from my experience flying around, whoever operates the FBO, whether it's a city or an independent, they still share the same building. So, either if we spend the money ourselves, if we had someone that wanted to be an FBO, they have to rent from us.
Yeah.
Or, depending on the lease conditions, have a partner that's willing to spend, 40% of the money to build it, because they're gonna be using it. And we got a couple of approaches we can look at. We don't have to look at, using our own financial resources. I think if someone wants to be an FBO bad enough, they'd be probably more than willing to pitch in some money to help build a building, since they're gonna be using it too.
Well, at a minimum, Rhett Ross has asked for a conversation. I think if we just come up with a plan, Rhett Ross with Continental, and we say, look, we're gonna build this really nice facility, and you're gonna have the immediate benefits from it. We need to raise your rent significantly to support that. That's one, that's one approach.
Without bidding for an FBO?
Well, I just don't think you're gonna get many bids for people to build an FBO with the fuel cells we have, but I'd welcome, everybody's thinking on that.
Do certain FBO companies like Signature, would they want a certain type of FBO? Would that be important to figure in? Like a guy, do they have standards as far as how they're laid out, that kind of thing? If you're attracting a millionaire versus a platinum or something, it might be something to consider too.
I've been in about 10 signatures, they're all different.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they all
I
look
was gonna
like,
say that,
they
too.
just bought everybody else out, I guess, but.
And I think if we don't put our, these adventures, we gotta shoot ourselves in the foot. I don't FBO that needs to be negotiated. There might be something out there that's willing to provide more, put up more for to provide the service. I think we need to list all the options.
Well, I'm all about, we could send out an RFP for an FBO if we, I think that RFP would be better received if we had 3 more hangars built out there with 4 more jets, you know, and that much guaranteed fuel, but, you know, we can go either way. Writing an RFP is not that big a deal. But I don't think we're gonna get the reception, you know, the response that we anticipate.
I agree with that. I also don't want to spend $800 to $1 million and have an empty building. For somebody to say, there goes the airport spending more money with no return. And we sure don't want the city to run the FBO.
We do
Nothing
not,
against our city.
we do not want the city to run the
I'm like
FBO.
Chip, I've never been into a city-run FBO that was worth going back to.
No, when it closes at 8 o'clock, it's actually closed at 8 o'clock at night. You show up at 8 to 1, guess what? You don't get any gas, and they don't care.
Yeah, I mean,
Like you want the government to run energy. That would be, yeah, their attitude is you're gonna buy gas from us whether you want to or not, so we don't really care. But I just think we need to open up to the free enterprise system and people that are used, city and run FBOs, some go very rarely, I have a part of my airplane, whereas you go into, you know, you go into competitive FBO, they want your business and they let you know it. So, you know, I think just we need to, you know, just to see what's out there. I don't know. I mean, I guess we're just talking. Continental might, you know, they might want that. They might want to renegotiate their whole lease if they were to get involved in this.
I think we'd be interested in but I think they're getting a deal now.
They're not going to want to negotiate this, renegotiate to give us more money. That's for sure.
Is it feasible to, I'm not that familiar with the airport facility, but would it be feasible to come up with a request for proposal on a contingent basis? If we'll commit to running it if and when you have 3 hangars sold, 3 pieces of property sold. And then at that point, you can write contracts and get going. What we're looking for is, you know,
Get Gabe to
somebody,
respond to
you
that.
know, are you, yeah, but if you'll show me 3 hangars out there, I'll sign. You can do them all at one time.
If we, you know, again, I think my plan was to go forward with the notice of availability for the hangars and get some true interest in that. And then we know. And then,
We were wondering if you're flushing the toilet.
Yeah. Pull up your zipper.
let me go back. Okay. If we got 2 or 3 people that had committed to build general aviation or to build hangars out there, 10,000-foot hangars and put jets out there, then I think you'd have a more attractive RFP package for general aviation. Or an FBO.
So what you were saying, Bill, is could we judge that on a what-if situation to see what they?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing you're gonna hear is, you know, I don't wanna have any part of it, I don't have any hangars.
Yeah.
Well, what if? If we write up some kind of contingent contract, would you accept this? Once we have contracts from A, B, and C to build a hangar. And that may be, then all of it can start at
I
one
think it becomes
time.
a lot more valuable if we have those contracts.
Well, what's the possibility of selling 3 pieces of property for a hangar without an FPO? All you need is a tank farm, right?
Right.
They don't care, yeah.
They're not really hung up on having
They're not, they don't care. They just need, I mean, the hangar space is different than they don't, yeah. And they'd like to have, you know, I'd probably promise them that at some point in time there'll be an FBO there. But I mean, you're not
Yeah.
committing to it.
Yeah.
Josh, is that something that could be doable with just a simple letter of intent?
Well, by and large, we're not required to follow any bid laws as an airport authority. So, yeah, I mean, you got a lot of flexibility there that if you were gonna try and do that with a letter of intent, then, yeah, no, that's not gonna be binding.
Right, yeah,
But
it would just be
it would-
kinda like
But it would have
some sort of.
something to show interest and commitment,
Right,
yes.
You know who to call back.
What do you mean we don't have to follow bid laws?
We're exempt from state bid laws as an airport authority.
Really?
Yeah.
For the
We
buildings.
have in the past, though, done that, Vince, on large contracts, but we, just to be, you know, above board, but we don't have to.
I never heard
News
of
to
it.
me.
Me too.
I never heard of it.
You know, the larger question is, and I have real concerns about the economics of it. I don't know a community this size that's capable of supporting long-term 2 FBOs on the airport.
Be tough. Be tough.
But if somebody wants to take a chance on it,
That's the world we live in. They
yeah,
can go
they
for
can
it.
certainly do it. I'm all for it.
And I've did a lot of work over the last month, coming up with the amount of fuel we've actually sold over the last 4 years, which I think I've shared with Vince and Ray and whatever. It's not as much as we think it is. Because we basically, we raise and Allen's gets commingled in that. You can't just take our number and come up with 320,000 gallons. It's really more like 26,000 gallons, or 260,000 gallons, I'm sorry.
And of course, if we get one of those military fuel service
It becomes
contracts,
a lot more valuable.
becomes a lot more valuable, and they're, Continental right now is on the hook for getting all that paperwork in, right?
Well, I mean, don't get me wrong, but it's our fuel contract. I mean,
Yeah.
It's not Continental's. I mean, they're using I don't think it goes with Continental,
No, it
right?
doesn't go
I mean,
with
Vince, what do you think about that? I mean, I never
But
thought
they
about
have
that.
been, Joe Baggett has been working on.
Continental,
submission.
according to their contract, is supposed to be trying to secure a
So,
military.
Yeah.
contract.
they failed 4 years ago.
Yeah.
But it comes up next March,
Yeah.
or it expires March 31st next year, and it starts again.
But Continental, is that their fuel contract with the military, or is it the Fairhope Airport's fuel contract?
It's theirs, they're supposed to try and secure one, because we get our 7 cents a gallon.
Yeah,
But it's in their lease
okay.
to go after that, which
It
Joe
was in-
Baggett's been working on, but we
Yeah.
need to make sure that he's,
Well, it's on my,
They should, to honor their lease, they should
They should
submit a
do.
good faith bid.
Now, they were supposed to work on it after we renewed their lease, they did not.
well, yeah.
They didn't make an effort to get it 3 years ago when the contract came up for bid.
I agree.
so if you're having a conversation with
Now,
Ross.
Rhett realizes that it's the ball's in their court. They need to get a fuel contract. And it's on the agenda every month, and we talk about it, where are you on your fuel contract?
Jack Edwards, an example, that's about 500,000 gallons a year.
Wow.
Pretty big bucks.
If someone said at one of the airport meetings, complained about noise, they said, do we make any money off these guys? We said, no, and he said, I'd sit here and quit bitching if I knew we were getting some money off of them. And at least if we,
We get some
you know,
money that way. yeah.
people probably be a lot wood-minded and nearly as much as they do that the city was getting revenue every time they landed and bought gas.
Well, they'd actually be landings too, just flying over.
Maybe eat lunch with us or something. All right,
Valid point.
we've knocked some stuff around. Anything else? We're gonna do this again tomorrow night, but we'll have a report. Vince, I'll see if I can get you a report of what we agreed to tonight, done tomorrow, so we can talk about it and actually approve it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because I think really, all we're talking about now is maybe, because we gotta give Hank some guidelines, maybe contemplate that move and let the fuel farm, and let him give us that. Maybe straighten this road up and elbow it back out to where 45's there, And
Move the FBO over to the other space.
and then take the FBO space out and that parking space
Yeah.
out and put it all in here based on what, can you do that for Mark? You always ask the contractors, can you do this by tomorrow?
They always tell me no.
Hey, can we go forward with our contract with these changes?
I mean, I think so, that's strictly up to you guys. I mean, the only.
Explain the situation to everybody.
The contracts have been executed by Cunningham Delaney. Part of those contracts was an additive alternate that was to put fuel-resistant asphalt in this area with the anticipation of the fuel farm coming at a later date.
Okay.
So whenever the Fed said, okay, we're going, and we, if y'all remember, we had like 6 alternatives. We had a base bid and like 6 alternates. and we're trying to utilize as much of the FAA funding that we could. One of those alternates was fuel-resistant asphalt. If you don't put fuel-resistant asphalt there, you put regular asphalt there, and the difference in cost between not doing regular versus doing fuel-resistant would be about $40,000. If you don't put fuel-resistant asphalt there, you haven't really gained anything, you haven't lost anything. Feds are picking up the tab on it, but the problem in lies now is that we moved forward with the anticipation of the fuel farm being where it is, and now the contracts are executed with that alternate in the contract.
So let me ask
Not
you a
executed by
question.
me, but executed by the.
If we voted as an authority to not let somebody fuel their plane right there, we don't need that there.
You don't.
So,
But if you wanna use that for aircraft parking, eventually an FBO, I highly recommend.
Go
that
ahead and
you put
have
it
the
there.
fuel resistant.
That's my
asphalt.
recommendation.
Yeah.
it's
Okay.
there, put it in.
How
You
does
ain't
that-
lost anything, it ain't gonna hurt anything, it's.
How does that alternate affect selection of contractors?
It does.
Does it
It's a-
change?
No,
Okay.
yeah, that's what I'm saying, the contract's been executed by the contractor
Okay.
that was low bid on the project, including that alternate. And if that alternate wasn't selected, they still would be low.
Okay.
The problem is that,
Change it.
the
Change.
problem is that if we're not gonna do it, then I gotta take those contracts
And
redo them, because now that alternate would be exempt.
But why would we not? That's my
That's
question.
that's totally
Okay.
up to,
Okay.
yeah. My recommendation is based on what I'm hearing tonight,
Uh-huh.
but keep in mind, nothing has firmly been voted on. But what I'm saying is based on what I'm hearing tonight, if your anticipation is to put some sort of maintenance operation there or park small aircraft there, I would highly recommend that you go ahead and put it down. It's already in the contract. There's
Okay.
no sense in really going away from it.
makes sense.
What happens when you move it? You gotta add it down there too.
Well, we ain't built this yet.
Well, I know we haven't,
And
but
done
if
that
we,
part of it yet,
And it's not mandatory that you have it. It was one of those perks that we were trying to get,
Sure.
since the FAA was picking up 90% and the state was picking up 5%. We were like, hey, if you're gonna fuel planes there, you know, it'd be kinda nice to have that.
deciding to relocate the tank farm is not gonna hold up any other
No,
construction.
no, no.
It could be done at a later date, paving, okay.
Yeah.
And then probably the big discussion we need to have tomorrow when we have everybody we can get here is, the future going forward, changing that $150,000 we're asking for and see if we can get the rest of this money.
Well, that's, I mean, that's.
I'm gonna try to talk to Kevin some more too tomorrow and prod him a little bit.
But I would like to go ahead with the contracts and get them executed and move forward, get the mobilization. Eric has not looked at these plans, Vince. He said he looked at them in March of last year, and so they're gonna come, so I may need your help in getting them, getting him through getting the permits on.
Okay, the only dirt we're moving is where we're tying in.
But
the
he,
existing road, right?
it's just always not that easy, you know that.
Right, and then the drainage down,
But the-
that's the only major.
But Richard Peterson's
major
agreed, yeah.
asphalt we're doing.
That's it. And Eric actually said we could work all night, 3 nights, so we could.
Well, let's execute the contract and get him the plans.
Well, he's had them since.
Really, we're gonna move dirt here,
Here.
Mhm.
and we're going to cut this up a little bit and put the French drain tied into that big pipe underneath, and that's it.
So he hasn't come back since
Well, and
March
everything
with any
goes into
questions.
that.
But he's not come back.
It's already there.
Hey, can you email me a copy of the contract documents?
Yes, yes, that's not a problem.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Joe just
It'd
said.
be a pretty big
Eric
file.
requested
Doesn't matter, I
several
just need to
documents since
do
March.
a
He
simple
hasn't come
resolution to
back with any
authorize Joe to
questions.
execute it
Okay,
for the authority.
okay.
I'll call Eric.
So I just need to see what, I need to see what it costs,
Just wait till you
basically.
get, just don't just expect it. I mean, I kept bugging, I mean.
We're
you wanna
voting on
take
it
one
and
of
it's
those
coming,
and
but
file
you
it,
have
then
some
go.
questions, so we
If you
can
got
go
questions,
on.
go ahead and-
Are those not execution copies?
Because you gotta get a
They're gonna
permit,
be
they gotta get a permit,
execution
they gotta do the
copies. They're
drainage
executed by
plan.
the contract, but not executed by Joe yet.
Okay.
But that's
fine.
Hank just said, everything we're doing is going into the existing pond that's already been approved.
Yeah. We got the world's
They're already-
lake
I'll
camp.
bring it back tomorrow.
That's fine.
Hey, Joe,
We can took that tree.
is it a requirement for this new FBO or terminal to be a permanent structure when it starts being built? Or could it be something like Platinum, where, I'm just thinking instead of somebody coming to an $800,000 build, if
Have a trailer initially.
just a lower risk deal
You
to
could do that
get,
in Gulf Shores, but you could probably do that in Fairhope, couldn't you? Yes.
just to get somebody, if someone were interested in coming in and,
Jeff Shores has What is it, Chip?
Wait, you
A
wanna
year
do a
minimum
container
or-
FBO?
2
Modular.
years.
Yeah, well, they've already granted extensions more than once. They have very strict, limitations on modular buildings there at Gulf Shores, and they happen to keep granting extensions very much to the city's chagrin. And I think the problem is I think what they realize, you got someone that puts a temporary structure up. Once it's up, they don't want to spend the money to build a permanent structure, so they keep trying to find time, so. I think-
Fairhope has that
Fairhope
same.
has that same thing.
I think, if you want to attract, quality business, I think we need something more than a trailer park.
I agree, this could be our main
Yeah,
entrance,
yeah,
and put
yeah.
it in there, it's gotta look good.
Fairhope has that same minimum, but I don't know if it's 6 months, a year, or
Yeah.
2 years, or whatever.
They
Needs
wouldn't
to
let
be
us
a
build
permanent
a
structure.
branch bank in a trailer.
That's correct. They had difficulty with first after church for temporary trailer.
Yeah.
Montgomery, 8 years ago, started off in a trailer.
Have the, have the underground utilities started or
No.
anticipate?
That's part
Yeah,
of
we're
that.
here.
That's
Yeah,
part of
we're
that.
still-
contract.
That's why I dropped off one of my grandsons this morning, so we're excited.
I'm just thinking if you're gonna move the facility over to here,
We're
might have to
still-
make some provisions to go into there also.
Now, what they'll be providing on this would be nothing simple but just trunk lines.
Yes, yeah.
So, it'll, like the water line will be a full-blown.
You just make your connections.
Yeah, and then as they come in and lease the spaces, however they wanna divvy them up, then they'll have to pay the, like, I think for water and for sewer, they'll have to pay to come out there and tap on the
See,
tenant themselves.
This road at an angle kinda came from Chip and I saying something about T-hangers. But then Chip and I came back the other day when we met with you and said, hey, could we turn it back here and then bring it around, still keep the T-hangers, but then we cut out on a potential tenant here, particularly this one, you don't have to pay, a 50-acre parking lot there, or, it'd be a 5-acre parking lot to get to your building. So we could tighten it up, which would then bring our utilities back in
Yeah,
line.
it seems like it'd be easier to sell for them all to be the same size, rather than say, well, all I've got left is this one down here. Well, it's too darn big, you know.
Yeah, I hope that's a problem. Hope we sell them all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
I think it
know.
would be better if they were more uniform.
It would be nice, but I'd be surprised if they were.
I mean, we're pretty much stuck where the utilities are. So, but the good thing is that we shoved them all the way over to the right of way. That way nobody's building over the top of them or, trying to build a parking lot over the top of them.
Yeah.
Is that our property line?
Yes,
So the.
that's that farm,
fence,
The streets.
yeah, that's street fence right there.
So then we might have a little problem here with the size, if you gotta have X amount of feet from here to here, so you have your plane outside, not over the ramp, of tightening it up too much.
Yes,
They might just have to go with that.
yeah. I mean, the other thing, and I think, if I ain't mistaken, I think one of the things we had talked about when we went from that original plan of the road coming in and doing like that was just to provide some green space for the airport to kind of dress up the road. You know what I mean? So these guys, even if they wanted to add, I would think they would put like some parking right here or something.
And leave your grass outside.
And then they could build them a little drive, just a little driveway going in, access to parking. And then you could put, like green space or whatever, just something. I know Fairhope's big on that.
So you can make the property the same size, just.
So that's 4
Yeah,
feet.
you ain't gotta lease that whole space.
Oh, okay.
You can make it unique to the,
Yes,
to
you
the
can.
tenant.
Cause we don't have anybody else we can lease it to after you take this from
Yeah, you're right.
Could you put a second structure in any of these things, like if a guy has a upholstery shop?
One is as technically appealing as possible, like that.
Oh, you have to consider minimum standards about what's allowed as
Yeah.
auxiliary.
Can't even park a car
Yeah.
in it for any length of time.
Especially you can't
And
park a
that-
boat.
Right.
If it's an aviation
Yeah.
upholstery, probably.
I was just thinking, somebody bought this and said, hey, I'm gonna
Pam, did you
put
take care of that?
a shop there,
That's
an
about
avionics
16,000
shop.
square feet
Yeah,
right there.
could somebody put a,
12.
what if they had an avionics shop they wanted to put here, and they wanted to put a second building right there, could they do that?
No, I haven't
If it's aviation related, I believe the FAA will.
I guess my only thing would be, and I'm just playing devil's advocate, I ain't trying to be smart aleck or nothing. But if we brought the road over here and took this over, now you got all this space over here, you just move road
We
from one
just
side.
eliminated space with lease from what I just said.
Right, yeah.
Why don't you leave it right there?
Okay.
Yeah, we didn't know about the green space. You can make them inside if you want, but now, we're gonna put a restriction or requirement that it will be a minimum of 8,000 to 10,000
Yeah,
square foot.
we're gonna go with the size of the rate.
Yeah, that is if you wanna allow them to build their own.
Well, we're gonna make those those first corporate ones, we're gonna try to keep them uniform now. We're gonna-
Subject to a fuel farm, you can build your 6,000 or 5,000.
If you wanna truck your fuel over
And
from
then
the
you wanna buy it from the
Buster
FBO.
farm, right, right.
That was just so you don't have everybody wanting a fuel farm for every single engine airplane that comes out here. Cause then you have a real environmental, hurt. You could blow up the
Yeah.
whole place, you know, with one.
All right. This is it. I appreciate y'all's time. This is the only format I think that we could have gotten through these decisions, so. Does anybody have anything else?
Chip, we're gonna hang up on.
All right, sounds good.
See you tomorrow, Chip.
Take care,
Hope you
Chip.
feel better.
All right, thanks.
You coming tomorrow?
Yes, I think my chauffeur and, health caregiver later on, right, not
All right.
give you a ride or not.
Let me know, I'll pick you up. All right. All right, bye.
Was it hip
I think you're not ready to go on strike.
I hear you, I understand.
One of us will come get you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll let you know in the morning.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Chip. Thank you.
Hang it, oh, we got it. Your battery's getting low, it didn't.
It's been beat up.
See you.
Yeah, I appreciate everybody's input.